Okay, so I'm excited to host Ash for a presentation on his journey from getting a brand new website from 0 to 1 million page views in 12 months. The best story yet is that he's done this on the side while working a normal full-time job, and he's done it with only 50 search-focused websites. So he's going to cover a lot of interesting concepts that he took, including finding his niche, uncovering different content opportunities, and we'll talk about how he did this and answer any questions along the way. Ash is the founder of Living Cozy and the editorial lead for Software Brands. Over his career, Ash has grown blogs to over 1.5 million sessions per month and worked on podcasts that are featured by Apple. His work has also appeared in many of the amazing publications out there, like Fast Company, Next Web, Entrepreneur. Ash, I will let you take it all from here.
Awesome, thank you so much. So yeah, as Bernard mentioned, talking about the journey from 0 to 1 million page views. Let me get the controls right. Yeah, so I think Bernard's given a better overview of me than I was going to give here anyway, so we'll get this done quickly. Yeah, I've spent most of my career working as a content writer and strategist for software brands. Spent the last 6 years, as you can see on my t-shirt on this slide, at buffer.com, and recently joined a company called Wayflyer to lead content there as well. Founded Living Cozy in 2020, and the idea behind the site was I basically just moved house. I knew there were loads of cool direct consumer brands out there in the home space, and it was just really hard to discover them. So I built a directory of a bunch of brands. There's like 250 on there now, and focused on SEO content to drive traffic back to the site. And yeah, scaled from like 0 to over 150,000 page views per month, over 1 million in total. Last month we had like a record month with just under 150,000 page views. And yeah, I'm going to talk you through my approach to building this site. Some of it is kind of stuff that you may have heard before. Hopefully there's going to be some new stuff in here as well. It's just like, this is my approach from I don't know, all the years I've spent in content to how I just went about building this site. And yeah, hopefully there's like a couple of things each you can pick up that will help you building your sites. So let's get going. First, just talking about setting up your site for success. This is kind of the first step, right? Like if you don't do these first things right, like the rest of it doesn't really matter. So my first tip for setting the site up for success is just kind of making sure it's easy to read and mobile friendly. Like that's especially important now. As we were talking about just in the intro, Google is starting to take page experience into consideration, and these things really matter. Just making sure that your content is easy to read, so there's contrasting colors, you're using H1s, H2s, heading tags properly in the code, and also just to make sure that the content's easy to skim, because as much as us online publishers wish everyone read every word we wrote, they really don't. So just make sure that your pages look good, they're clean, they're easy to navigate, and the content's simple to consume. The second part of this is just to optimize your CMS. So whatever you're using to power your site, just make sure that that's optimized for SEO success as well. So I try to always have a title or a field for an SEO title, so that I can control how my title looks in Google search results. And that might be slightly different to how the title looks on the website. And also a specific meta description space. And always kind of try and stick to the Google kind of mobile rules for these sections. So I think mobile currently displays 72 characters for a heading, and 172 for meta description. So try and always stick within them, because you're going to give yourself the best chance of getting a click if people see your whole heading and your whole meta description, and it's not truncated and chopped off. And then the final one for just setting up the site and getting ready just like make sure your site's fast. Like if you're buying an out of the box like WordPress theme or something like that, like run it through page speed testers before you start playing around with it. And kind of try to avoid loads of like interactions, animations, scripts, plugins, like especially on WordPress, like plugins can solve every problem you have, but then they also just bloat your site and can slow it down in the long run. And then, yeah, just with like images, make sure that you have standardized sizes, that you're not uploading like 5 megabyte images and just like ruining the page speed. And a report that I really like is the new Core Web Vitals report in Google Search Console, because yeah, like the Core Web Vitals is kind of how Google measures the page experience. And if you're all good in that report, then like you're all good. If Google flags anything, you kind of need to fix it or it's going to start hurting your site. So yeah, that was like a quick overview. I wanted to like get through that fairly speedy because like none of it's too groundbreaking, but it's very, very important if you want to build a site in the long run. So the second section is, yeah, like finding your niche. So yeah, as it comes to like finding a niche for a site, and whether it's like, you know, B2C, like Living Cozy is, like it's a consumer facing website, or kind of you work for a B2B brand and you need to connect with your company's target customers, like the first question I like to think about is just like, what do you want to be an authority on? Like, what is the one thing that like you want to be known as being the best for? And I think to like kind of reach that, I like to kind of start quite high level and just kind of come up with like 3 to 5 key topics that you'd like to be known for. And in the next slide, I'll kind of share a bit about how I've done this with Living Cozy. But to kind of get to that, I would ask myself questions like, okay, what are the problems you're solving? What do your customers care about? Where do your customers currently feel stuck? So like for Living Cozy, it's like, you know, we want essentially like what we do is to try and make people kind of make it easier for people to discover like the best home products for their home, right? To make more informed decisions about the products and brands they share their home life with, which is kind of like a really important thing. Like we spend so much of our life at home now. So, you know, like what problems are you solving? It's like for both sides, customers and the brands, it's like discovery. You know, what do our customers care about? It's like quality, knowing that they can actually trust these online brands. Where do they feel stuck? Like, again, trust is a very big one. If you're trying to buy a sofa online, like you can't actually sit on it. Like you need to know that you can trust, if the company says it's a firm seat, you need to know it's a firm seat. And then the final thing that I think is really, really important when it comes to like defining what you want to be an authority on, is just like, what do you actually find interesting enough to write about for the next 3 to 5 years? Because, you know, success doesn't happen overnight. Like Living Cozy has grown really, really fast in a year, faster than I even thought it would. But when you start, you kind of need to have this long-term commitment in your mind, knowing that like, okay, I want to be in this for the long run. Like it's going to take years for this to really like bear fruits. And yeah, like Living Cozy's grown to, you know, over 1 million in a year, but it's still not anywhere near where I would like it to be in the long term. So I'm kind of in this, yeah, thinking like 3 to 5 years, which I think is really important going into any sort of content project. And yeah, kind of as I mentioned, like, you know, come up with like 3 to 5 areas that you want to be an expert in, that you want to be an authority on, and just like try and go niche down like another level from wherever you land in that first exploration. So, you know, Living Cozy, as I said, is all about discovering furniture brands. And originally, I just kind of started out like, what can I write about any piece of furniture? And that list is ridiculously long, and it's impossible to become a master of all of it. So I kind of like the equation in my mind was just like, okay, what has low search competition and high average order value? So like Living Cozy makes most of its revenue for affiliates. And I kind of landed on like these 2 areas. So sofas and outdoor furniture, because they have extremely high average order value. If I want to scale the site, I need revenue, and selling sofas, like selling one sofa kind of gets more revenue than selling like, I don't know, 200 candles. So it's just like I need to focus on the high average order value so that I can continue to invest in and grow this site. So that's how I kind of focused on sofas originally, and also just found like some real great opportunities in the keywords for sofas. So it just made sense to kind of get started in that space. So yeah, my advice here is just like, wherever you land on the topics you want to be an authority on, like how deep can you go? Like, can you take it another layer or two deeper? And find like a fairly small niche that you can actually own right away. So yeah, then once you've got these niches down, like you need to start kind of coming up with the content opportunities. And I'll start with keyword research, which I'm sure isn't a new thing to anyone on this webinar. But yeah, when I'm looking for a great keyword, there's kind of three things that I'm focused on. Is like, people are searching for it, so the volume, there's not too much competition, so keyword difficulty, and also there's just like a really clear fit with your business. Like, you know, there's no point, like for me at Living Cozy, like I'm not a DIY site, so there'd be no point in me writing about, like, you can see the examples on the right here, like how to paint wood furniture. Like that's not really in my niche. Like I'm not like selling paint and DIY tools. But like where to buy furniture, like that's something that kind of fits with me. So yeah, I tend to start really broad, as you can see in the example on the right, just like put in furniture, sofas, like start super high level. And then as you get down to like, as you get the results, you can kind of hone in on like one or two keywords. So like from this results, like I might look at where to buy cheap furniture and where to buy furniture. Like they're actually really difficult. With like 64 and 58 keyword difficulty. But you can kind of put those in and then kind of keep digging and digging until you find like these kind of perfect keywords that are like low competition and also, yeah, like good enough volume. Like anything over like 200 a month is the volume that I quite like. And then once I've kind of exhausted my list of initial keywords, I'll just like hone in on competitors. And there's a site called The Spruce, which is like a huge homeware site. Like I think it's like 30 million visits per month. And my initial kind of strategy for finding keywords was just to like see what do they rank for. That's actually like quite small in volume to them, but huge for me, and also quite low keyword difficulty. So you can see like I was using Ahrefs in this screenshot. Anything with volume from like 300 to 1500 and a keyword difficulty of a maximum of 7. So for a new site, like anything that gets 300 to 1500 searches per month is highly valuable for me because I have 0 traffic. For a site making like 30 million page views per month, they're not going to notice if they lose like 300 from someone writing a better article on how to clean a suede couch. So that was kind of my approach to go at like getting my initial traffic, was like, what is their existing traffic for? What are people ranking for? And like like something I'll talk about in a couple of slides is like how to actually pick off those pieces of content that are only ranking because of high domain authority. So yeah, and like when it comes to research, like don't sweat it too much about like keyword volume. Like it doesn't have to be in the thousands or tens of thousands. Like what you want to focus on is like the fit for your business. Like even if something has like 50 to 100 searches a month, if it's a perfect fit with your business, like it's worth focusing on. So to give you an example, one of the first articles I had that actually made me money was about sofa in a box brands, and they're like, I think fairly new, like maybe been around for like 5-10 years, but companies like Burrow, Inside Weather, like they'll ship you a couch in boxes so that you can get it around your apartment building into your room, build it. No stressful situations of trying to navigate a whole sofa through doorways or hallways. And instead of like trying to go right out the box and be like, I want to rank for sofas or sectional couches or high volume, high value keywords, I just found like the low volume, high intent ones, because like the thing I noticed as well from the search results was people that search sofa in a box brands, like they don't want to get told about how a sofa in a box works. They just want to buy one. that was really high intent. So I was able to rank and then also make sales, which was really, really important for a new site. And yeah, this is kind of what I mentioned a few minutes ago about like looking where competitors are ranking and like trying to outrank them. So there's like in the SERPs, there's something I've kind of spotted, which I've just called like throwaway content. And it essentially refers to content that like ranks really well because of a site's authority, not necessarily because it's the best possible piece of content out there for that topic. So a couple of things you can do to like spot these pieces, like when you're going through Ahrefs or SEMrush, or even like the competitor tab in ClearScope, which I use a lot now. It's just like, you know, is the content a couple of years old? Is it like under 1,000 words? And does it actually feature expert voices, or is it just like an editor has put this piece out because they had to? Because that's what I've noticed quite often in the home space, is you'll get pieces of content that rank because they're on like Apartment Therapy, My Domain, Domino.com. Like they rank to the domain, but they actually feel like they were just written in like a couple of hours and published to kind of hit a deadline rather than specifically focused on ranking for those keywords. So yeah, you can kind of see on the right hand side of the screen at the top, there's a piece about deep sofas on Apartment Therapy. It was written in 2019. And I think it was probably like 1,000 words. And I was able to actually write a more in-depth piece on deep seat sofas, bring in subject matter experts, like go in depth about it, like talk in detail about each sofa, about why depth matters. And yeah, I was able to outrank that domain and that piece of content with an almost brand new site. So yeah, just keep an eye out for these like throwaway pieces of content and pieces that like, you know, are only ranking because of domain authority, not because of content quality. So yeah, like once you've started doing all of your keyword research and you've got like your list of topics that you want to write about, my number one piece of advice, like whether you're starting a side project site, you're working for a new company, trying to build a business blog up, like just commit to a number, because success like won't happen with your first 1 or 2 articles. And if you're only like posting sporadically when you find moments of inspiration, like that's not going to work either. So my advice is just to pick like a target, right? Like commit to 30 articles in year 1, 50 articles, 100 articles, like 20 articles a month, like whatever that number is, it doesn't really matter as long as you set yourself a good target that you can actually work towards and achieve. Because if you set yourself a target of, I'm going to publish twice a week for 1 year, in week 2, once you've published 2 things and they haven't taken off, you don't get disheartened because you see that you're like 1% or 2% of the way into your journey. And if you just publish those 2 things without that target, you could easily be like, well, that didn't work, I'll give up. So yeah, commit to a number of posts. That's like my number one thing for starting a new site. And once you've committed to a number, just create a calendar, put together a plan on how to achieve it. And yeah, I've kind of bullet pointed here, like ensure it's achievable, because like for me, I started Living Cozy as a side project. Like I don't want my side project to be miserable. Like I don't want to constantly feel like I'm falling behind and failing. So even if your content calendar is just like 1 article a month, just put it in there, plan it out, because it gives you something to aim for and you can feel good when you tick it off and achieve it. And my second piece of advice with like content calendars is like make sure there's something you're really looking forward to. So I, you know, as much as I really enjoy working on Living Cozy, like writing about sofas for like 8 months straight, like it wasn't always super exciting. Like I didn't love every minute of it. But what I did love was we have a section on the site where we do interviews with founders, which I think is really important to get credibility for the site. But I really enjoyed writing those. So if I knew I was going to like struggle through a couple of posts, I would schedule an interview with a founder or a different style of content that I knew I would enjoy, just to kind of give myself a little reward. Because yeah, like whether you're doing this for a day job or you're doing it for a side project, like you have to have something to look forward to, or it's just kind of going to suck. Especially for side projects, like, yeah, anything you're doing outside of your day job, like you need to have some fun with. Cool. So I think like, yeah, we're getting into like the true meat here of like, I'm sure why most people have joined is like how to write content that resonates and ranks in search. So yeah, the first point, and yeah, Bernard, you'll be happy to see this screenshot of ClearScope in here, but yeah, do your research. You know, the first thing I'll do, like whenever I've got a keyword, is to look at what's already ranking. So to try and figure out the intent of the searchers and what Google thinks the searchers are looking for, right? Like whatever Google ranks is what it thinks are the best results for this keyword. So, you know, you're often looking to figure out like, are people looking for product recommendations? Are they looking for some extra information about a type of product? Like whatever it is, try and figure out the intent. Look at what's already ranking, and you can kind of like reverse engineer the like key talking points that you need to hit in your post. And then this is kind of like the most important thing off the back of that. Once you've done your research, once you've figured out what your post needs to talk about, find your own unique angle, because like this, like one of the first editors I ever worked with, like gave me this advice, and like I don't know if it's come from anywhere else, but it was just like everything's already been written, it's just not been written by you, and that's very, very true in the work that we all do. There's probably not one topic that any of us have ever written about where we're the first people to write about that topic. What matters is having something unique to add to the conversation. So even if you're hitting all the same talking points that Google wants you to hit to rank, have something a little bit unique to offer, have something that other pages don't give people on the internet. So this has been a really, really important thing for me, because I think it was April time, Google, or it might have been even February, but like Google ran this like reviews update, and it wiped out like a ton of sites that literally just like copy and pasted from product pages when they were describing things. And for me, like I'll always try and reach out to like either an interior designer or someone from the brand to add a unique perspective to everything we write about, so that we're giving people something that they can't get on any other website, even the brand web pages. And yeah, I've just kind of touched on this point, but I really want to share this quote from Jeffrey Keating, who used to be at Intercom, is now at Segment. And he said, "I think it'd be quite ingenuous if I sat down and started writing an article about the future of design. The best writing comes from lived experience, and that article is going to be much more impactful if it actually comes from a designer." And that's true for like every single niche out there. Like the best content comes from the people that do the work day in and day out. Like when I was at Buffer, like I worked in the social media industry for like 6 years, but I wasn't a social media manager for 6 years. So we still needed to get perspectives from people who do that work day in, day out. And at Living Cozy, it's been really important for me that like to kind of realize like no one cares what my thoughts on interior design are, right? Like I am just the curator of all of this stuff. What people care about is like, what do the experts say? What do the interior designers say? What do the brand founders say? What do the product designers say? So I'll try and bring that into every single thing that we publish. And the example you can see here is from our outdoor furniture guide. And I actually was able to get like the co-founder of like Floyd, which is a home like furniture brand, to give some comments about like how they designed their furniture. So that's kind of something exclusive. It's a unique angle that people can't get in other outdoor furniture guides, which kind of elevates ours above the others, in my opinion. And this is a goldmine. Help a reporter out. It's something I do for every single thing we publish. Essentially, it's just a way for journalists to connect with sources and sources to share their expertise. And if we're being honest, generate backlinks. Like that's why 90% of people are there. But it's really, really good. It's really helpful. So every single article we publish, before I even write, I'll kind of go through the research phase, figure out like what do we need to talk about, and then before I put together a brief, I will send out a HARO request and just say like, we're looking for the input from professional interior designers. We want to know these 4 things about this subject, and that kind of gives me a great starting point and helps me or whoever is writing it to beat writer's block, because there's nothing worse than staring at a blank Google document. I've wasted many, probably hours, days, weeks of my life staring at the cursor blinking in Google Docs, not knowing where to start. And the best way to beat that is just to never be in that position. So for every article we write, like I work for a couple of freelance writers now, and whenever I send them a brief, it's at least like 500 to 1,000 words. Like more often than not, it's probably about like 800 to 900 words. And what I'll do is try and like stitch together the article based on like the talking points and topics and then expert quotes. So you can kind of see on the right hand side, like this was a guide that we wrote about solid wood furniture. And we've got like the first like H2 and H3 there. And then we've got like 4 quotes from experts. So whether I'm writing that or a freelance writer's writing it, like they know, okay, these first 2 sections, this is what I need to cover. These are the expert thoughts. The job is then just to stitch those bits together rather than starting from scratch. So yeah, like the best way to beat writer's block is just to put yourself in a position where you're not going to come into contact with writer's block and you never see the blinking cursor on a blank page. And yeah, like this is kind of one of my favorite lessons from Living Cozy. It's something that I keep in mind with every single thing that we publish now. It's that it doesn't have to be perfect right away, and it's okay to like layer up content as you go. So to kind of give you an example of what I mean by like layering up, it's if you look at like our sectional sofas guide, it's one of our like most popular posts, gets like probably 20,000 page views per month. It's maybe like 4,000 words now. 8 or 9 months ago, if you told me to write 4,000 words about sectional sofas, I would not have wanted to do it. I'd have dreaded it. I'd have put it off, and I'd never have published it. But what we done instead was I published the original like maybe 1,200 word blog post, and over time just kind of added sections. So what is a sectional sofa? Like this was added in after we published, because I was able to go out and get some more expert quotes about what sectionals are. So I added that section in. Then over time, I was able to reach out to different brand founders and say like, what makes your sectional better than any others? So I would then go through and add like a quote from Burrowin, a quote from Allform, and it's always evolving. So Google kind of constantly sees like there's fresh stuff on this page every month or so. And it also just makes your job so much easier for publishing. Like if you see a keyword and you're like, I know this needs to be like a 4,000 word guide to rank, which unfortunately is just a truth of SEO. As much as we all say like word count doesn't mean quality, and it doesn't. Sometimes you just have to have the amount of content there that Google wants there. But to make it less daunting, you can just break it down over time and build it up as you go, adding layer after layer. And actually right now, like we're producing a video to go on the sectional sofas guide to be like another layer. So this, what is a sectional section, is actually going to be replaced. Like the image here is going to be replaced with a video with an interior designer talking about what a sectional is. So we're kind of continuing to layer up more and more. Cool. Now what to me, like the most painful part of the process, this is the process part I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy promoting content, but it has to be done. And we have to put ourselves through these things and learn to embrace the things that we don't love. So my first tip, find communities. Like whatever niche you're in, there's a community out there. Like the web is just like an endless sea of communities now, which is great. Whatever you're into, you can find others like it. And yeah, like on Reddit, there's r/furniture. I'll be honest, I got banned from r/home and a few others before I learned the ways of Reddit. But yeah, like my initial post in some subreddits was just going in and saying, hey, I built this site, would you like to take a look? And then I'd refresh and I've been banned because I kind of wasn't really adding anything to the conversation. I wasn't helping anyone. So there was a lesson there. And like when it came to the furniture subreddit, I kind of only posted when I could genuinely help someone. So yeah, you can see here, like someone's looking for a small sectional with shades. I was like, here are some brands I'd recommend, like here's an article I wrote about it. And you can see like the comment, people saying it was super helpful. That was great. Like it was actually probably where like my first like 10-20 day page view days came from, was just like posting on Reddit. It felt like an endless slog at the time. I was just like, oh, is this really worth it for like 20 visits? But it was good. It kept me going in the early days. Then like partnerships. So I think like partnerships, promotion, like these don't have to be massive things. Like it can just be featuring people in your articles with the hope that they'll share it. That's something that, yeah, I worked on with Andrea from Snackshot. Like she was building a newsletter about like trending food and beverage brands. Last Christmas, like no one was going anywhere. So it's just like, what brands would you recommend? What food would you recommend to kind of travel somewhere outside of your home, even when you're not leaving your home? So yeah, Andrea put together that list. I published it. She promoted it on social. And I've also done the same with like brands like Bloomscape and a few others in the early days, was just like feature them and they will hopefully promote. Build backlinks, like, yeah, probably my least favorite of all SEO things is backlink building. I think it gets a bad rep. And it's very, very, very tough. That's probably why I don't like it, because it takes actual hard work. But one of the best ways I found to build backlinks was to find the brands that I'd featured on Living Cozy. And I have this long Notion doc with like 200 brands, and it's got two columns. One is, have I featured them on the site? The next is, do they have a press page? And if they have a press page, I tell them I featured them on the site. And sometimes I'll reach out to them and say, I want to interview your founder. Like, here's what we want to do. Like, essentially, I want to write a piece that makes you sound great. I want to tell the story of your business. They get excited by that. Then I publish it and say, can I have a backlink on your press page? And I know, like, you know, press pages link out to probably like 50 other sites. Like, it's not the best page in the world to be featured on, but it's enabled me to get backlinks from probably like 20 home and furniture brands. And as a site with zero like credibility in a niche a year ago, that's incredibly valuable. So I think like my advice here was just like, this worked for me. Find whatever works for you to get backlinks, right? Like, you don't have to follow the traditional playbooks. You don't have to like go guest posting. Just find whatever hacks you can get, like responding to HARO requests, like I mentioned earlier. That's a great way. And yeah, just like, honestly, if the press page hack works for you, amazing. Like, if you're in an industry where you can do that, just do it and like rinse and repeat it until it stops working for you. And then, yeah, like my other thing, like internal links, so important, like especially when you're kind of focusing on like a real like niche within a niche. Like for me, like sofas, I make sure all of our sofa pieces link together in a cluster. And what I'll do is, like, every single time we hit publish on something, I will just do the kind of Google like site semicolon your URL and then a keyword, and then that will kind of show me all of the pages on my site that use that keyword, and then I'll just go through and add a link. So yeah, you can see here I've just searched for all our pages that mention velvet sofas. So when I want to link, so I can just go through and add links to our new velvet sofa content to all of those pages. And finally, I think, yeah, we'll be wrapping up just in time for some Q&A. This one's nice and short. Measuring success. I mentioned at the start, like, this is difficult for new sites because like it won't happen overnight. This period, like you can see on this chart, like kind of leading up to December 2020, I was probably like, I don't know, 5 months in or whatever, getting like I don't even know how many visits a day. And I was just like, is this all going to be worth it? And with SEO, it's kind of not a lot, then all of a sudden, like yeah, late December, early January, it really started taking off. Then again in April, then like, yeah, last month we had a huge month. It's continued to grow this month. Like, it won't happen overnight. Like, you have to do a lot of this in like blind faith, that doing the right thing, time and time again, getting the backlinks, writing great content, bringing experts in, like, it will eventually pay off. And yeah, this is kind of like the framework I've been using to measure success. Like, it was actually inspired by a Growth Machine blog post. They had like an article on like measuring success for new sites, and I think like some of the steps were from that. Because I was, yeah, like 12 months ago, I was just sat there going like, how do I know this is working? And yeah, the first thing I use for measure of success is just like number of articles published. Even now it's like, I aim for like 10 posts a month. So have we hit 10 posts a month? Awesome. If we haven't, like, that's the first thing we need to fix before we worry about anything else. But yeah, as you're starting from zero, focus on the number of things you're publishing, hit that. Then after like a few months of, say, publishing 10 posts a month, start to look at the number of organic keywords your site ranks for. Like, I use Ahrefs for this, and I don't care if we're ranking like 100th. Like, if we're ranking for a keyword, that's good, especially in the early days, because like you're going to be ranking in like the hundreds, the high teens, or the high tens, but it doesn't really matter at this stage. Then once you're ranking for a certain number of keywords, or you've been ranking for keywords for a couple of months, start looking at organic impressions. Like, that's in Search Console, and that's telling you like how many people are actually seeing your link in Google. But don't worry about clicks at that stage. You just want to see that number kind of starting to go up. Then again, after like another month or two, how many people are then clicking on it via Google Analytics? And then like the final thing you want to measure is whatever your measure of success is, right? So for me, it's how many people actually, it's kind of odd, but it's like people leaving my site and clicking affiliate links or clicking through to brand pages. Very strange measure of success. Like, my bounce rate doesn't always look great, but it's kind of good. But like, had I have started out and then like last, I don't know, like August, September, October, if all I cared about was clicks on affiliate links or sales or revenue, I'd have seen like very low, discouraging numbers. Probably all the way up till like January, I wouldn't have really seen a lot. So, but I'd have been ignoring all of the great stuff that's happening between steps 1 and 4. So I think it's really important to just kind of like know what your end goal is, but don't focus on it right away. Just focus on the steps to reaching that end goal. And yeah, that wraps everything up. I will take a breather, and yeah, I think we'll have time for Q&A.
Awesome stuff, Ash. There's been obviously lots of discussions going on. I've been trying to organize them into a lot of different buckets that I think people have. I'd say we have a lot of a grouping around the idea of affiliate, how much that played a role. We have a grouping around results and the timing around how long it should take or could take for results. We have a lot of stuff that people are interested around surrounding expert insights, right? And kind of shone a light on how important those are. And I completely agree. So let's have you take a quick breather and start with a pretty simple one. This is a lifestyle one. How do you juggle a full-time job with living cozy?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, I think working remotely is like, yeah, if I'm being honest, like working remotely is a huge part of it. I don't have to commute. And yeah, I tend to kind of start at like 7 most days. So I'll kind of start at like 7 a.m., do some living cozy stuff. And then I've always had this thing working remote, like I need to leave the house before I can properly start work for the day. Kind of creating a false commute for myself, I guess, which seems silly, but yeah, I'll like go for a walk, go to the gym, something, come back, start work at 9, and then yeah, try not to do too, like some evenings I'll do stuff for like an hour or two, And then weekends I'll try and do like a few hours as well. But yeah, I think it's really important to like make sure you still have time to like chill. Otherwise you'll just burn out and not enjoy like either your job or your side project.
Totally, totally. And then hopefully another simple one. Did you use a designer to design your site? It is super user-friendly and organized.
Awesome, thank you. That's great to hear. So I just used a template. So it's built in Webflow. I used a Webflow template, and over time it kind of looks probably unrecognizable from where it started, but I've kind of tweaked it gradually. I'm not a designer. Like, I think what they say like about art is stealing. Like, if I mean, Webflow is amazing. You can change stuff in minutes. Sometimes I'll see something I like on a different site and I'll just go back to Living Cozy and try and implement it. But yeah, I started with a template. Like, there's amazing templates out there to help you make stuff look nice without being a designer.
All right, we're going to get into a bit more of the substance now. There's been a upvoted question. I think I might have said websites, but what do you mean by 50 search-focused websites? I probably should have said pages instead. But I guess to follow up with that, what are some of the other types of pages that you've created that are not search-focused?
Yeah, so there are a couple. So like there's all of the brand like profile pages. Like, I wouldn't say they're search focused. Like, my hope is give it like 4 or 5 years when I've got really high domain authority, like I'll rank for brand name keywords with the profiles, but they kind of exist more so to just be a directory to let people discover brands. The main non-search focused pages I have are actually like the interviews. So I have a whole section of interviews with founders. They exist essentially to like add more color to the other content we have, to build more trust. I think it's just great, like if you're coming to my site for the first time and you want to buy furniture and we have an interview with the founder of furniture brands, like that helps to build trust. As I saw in the press page thing, it helps, they kind of exist for backlinks as well. And yeah, I would say like it's okay to kind of have a search focused site and just create content for other reasons. So yeah, for backlinks, for credibility, like none of that will like harm your search. There's probably like 50 or so pages. I think it's like 50 blog posts I have now, and basically every blog post I have is focused on ranking. And yeah, we have like reviews as well. Like reviews, I hope they rank, but again, they also exist primarily just for like credibility and to show that like we actually get hands-on with some brands. We don't just like copy and paste stuff.
Totally. And I guess that's a good natural segue into expert insights. People have been wondering, where do you find subject matter experts? You had mentioned help a reporter out. You had also mentioned, right, the brands with the press pages as an interesting idea. Are there any other places that you've tried looking, any other ideas that have come to mind when it comes to finding those juicy quotes?
Yeah, so I would say like originally it was like I would cold pitch a lot of interior designers and experts, because like Help a Reporter has this thing where like I think you have to be in like in the top million of Alexa rankings. So basically it just kind of means that they know they're serving good sites with quotes. And I remember like I had like a daily battle to try and get there. Like I'd go up some days, then I'd go back the next day and I'd drop down, and yeah, it just felt like an impossible task to get there. So there was a lot of cold outreach in those early days, just like going across like HAROs, trying to find interior designers, seeing people that have been quoted in like Domino and other publications and reaching out to them. But yeah, the main ones just like HARO, and then press pages of like brands. Also, like if like an interior designer or an expert in your niche has a press page or like a media page, they probably quite like being featured. So it's good to reach out to them.
Yeah. So are there, I guess, any tips then on top of getting experts to agree with you? Perhaps, something as tactical as finding the right person from the team on LinkedIn, sending them an in-mem, to a little bit more incentivizing them or finding their personal email and saying, hey, can I pay you for your time? Or, is there
Yes.
any tips about that?
Yes. I think with like brands, it was always like, yeah, go to LinkedIn, see how big the company is, to kind of whether the founder is going to be responsive. See if they've got dedicated press people, if they've got dedicated press pages. Like finding the right contact is the first battle. And then I think like there's always, like with outreach, I kind of say like there's always an advantage. Like you always have a competitive advantage. It just takes a bit of time to find it. So when I was at Buffer, our competitive advantage, which was just like the best one, I could just be like, we've got an email list of 1 million people. Like we're going to send it to them. That was the sell. It was just like, here's what we want to know. It's going to go to 1 million people. We've got 1 million people on social that follow us. Cool. That was like, I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it worked. For me, most of the time, like I think the thing with like founders was I want to tell like your story. Like I want to give you space to talk about why you started this brand, what you care about, to kind of go in depth and really like listen to them. Because I feel like that's probably something they don't get all the time. And yeah, I think like when it comes to interior design experts and kind of like non-founder types, I think again, it's just like giving them chance to showcase what they know. And yeah, like selling them, like you're going to get a backlink here, telling them the benefits, right? Like, I don't know, I can't answer this for everyone, but like there will be an advantage. You just have to like look for it. And yeah, for me, it was like, I want to tell founder stories in more detail than anyone else.
Yeah, I love that approach where if you have numbers, use the numbers, right? If
Yeah.
you can say, look, I'm going to publish this interview and it's going to go out to this many eyeballs, then that inherently is a lot easier as a pitch. But to get a little bit more creative when you're getting something off the ground, and I'd say, pitching founders oftentimes have this like pay it back mentality. They like understand that, oh, I was once like you getting started, so let me go out of my way to help you. I love that idea of like, let me tell your story. Who doesn't love, telling their story, having a captive listener, and then helping out another fellow founder, entrepreneur, or freelance like writer to achieve such things.
Yeah, I would just say if you have numbers, lean on numbers. If you don't have numbers, find a story, find a good hook, and that'll work for you.
Totally. So let's backtrack a bit. There were some questions around affiliate, right? Specifically, when you touched upon your identifying of a niche, you kind of brought out some ideas around, of course, what you're passionate about, what you can like wake up, write about, and similarly, things with low keyword difficulty, high transaction dollar value. But how much did you actually look at the affiliate programs themselves when you were picking your niche?
So before I started actually like zero, it was just like a happy accident. Like I've been thinking about it recently. I was like, if I started another site, like I would 100% check affiliate like percentages, average order values, and I would go for like a high AOV niche. Yeah, living cozy, like I can't claim any great foresight. I just moved house and I wanted a site to help with it. It probably should have clicked earlier, but I was just like, I didn't really think about it until honestly, like a few months in, like once I started getting a little bit of traffic, someone bought a sofa and I made like $40 or something. And then it just clicked and I was like, oh, this could work. There's something here. But yeah, like if I was starting again 100% like with the niche, I would think about how I can monetize that niche. Like it might not be affiliates. Like if there's great affiliates, awesome. Maybe like advertising partnerships. Like I probably wouldn't start a project again without like a clear, here's how I'm going to make money from it strategy from day one.
Yeah, no, that's so funny because just based on the way that you described it, it was like I'm not sure if he like looked too hard into that, but And then you get there and you start building, affiliate sites, and you're like, oh, this is why the wire cutter does electronics, and
Yeah.
this is why this is all the top end of the high dollar amount items. So interestingly enough, right, a very common segue then of affiliate is that you might start with a program like a share a sale, commission junction, Rakuten. But oftentimes you can start to graduate into pitching custom affiliate deals with brands. This is a play on a question that somebody asked. How did you partner with brands to get affiliate links? Are you starting to think about other avenues of actually partnering with brands, or are you sticking to the normal marketplaces where people are posting affiliate deals?
Yeah, so yeah, I think I spoke about like layering it up in terms of content. I think it was the same with revenue. I started out with a site called Skim Links, which basically monetizes every link on your website. If someone clicks on it and they have an affiliate program through like Share a Sale, Pepper Jam, you get like a percentage of that revenue. So I started with that, then gradually would kind of reach out to brands. Like if I saw them on Share a Sale, I'd kind of reach out, like give them the pitch. Waited till I had like about 10,000 visits a month, just because like that sounded like a good number. And then I would kind of pitch them. But I think most of the relationships, like all the best relationships that I have with brands have come through like me reaching out about like an editorial piece first. So I've never like lead with, I want to make money from you, even though like technically it's I want to make you more money. My lead was always kind of like, yeah, I want to tell your story. And more often than not, if they have an affiliate program, they will say, oh, you can join our affiliate program, or you can kind of publish the piece, then like go back and say like, oh, would you mind if I joined your affiliate program? So I kind of, yeah, always thought like editorial first. And I know, I hope that's what brands appreciate, was that I wasn't just like saying, hi, like, how can I make some money from you? And then I think like, yeah, longer term, like I'm looking at, yeah, how can we kind of create like more branded content? Like I mentioned, we're working on videos about like sectional sofas. Like one of the things I'm working through is like part of the layering up strategy is like, once I have an article like generating quite a bit of traffic, ranking really well on search, can I go through and add video? Can I go through and like, yeah, offer to work with a brand on like a video to sit within that page? Can we reach out to brands and actually do like reviews? Can we get them to ship products to us that our writers will test? Actually, like a really cool, like if I was in the US, I probably wouldn't have had to buy any home goods for ages, but I'm in the UK, so all our writers get the home goods. But yeah, like that's kind of it. Like I think, yeah, layering up the relationships from like affiliates to like partnerships to how can we create content together. Yeah, that's my approach.
So you're basically telling everybody who's listening that they should be a contributor to be working with you.
Yeah, if you like frying pans or like any of that stuff, just like, yeah, send me a DM.
Well, definitely do that. Send him a DM, ping him on Twitter. We'll provide where you can find him on Twitter. I mean, if you like, I guess, reviewing things and getting nice perks, that's definitely a great thing. I want to do a time check here. We have some more questions that people have, but are you okay on time?
Yeah,
Or
like
maybe
I've got like
5 to
another
10
like
minutes?
5, 10. Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
perfect. So now we're going to talk about results. There's a lot of stuff related to results. We're going to start with something that you did touch upon. How did you market your site? Right? It seems like it's been a journey where you first got started. You said, okay, I want to promote my content, and you posted it to communities. Quickly learned that communities require a little bit more finesse to work with instead of just promoting it. And then you started creating partnerships and then trying to seek out the brands with the press pages. Is there any other like learnings or things that you would suggest from like, the early days now to being a lot more established that you've seen work? Or is it just more like, okay, in the early days, just do whatever you can to get eyeballs to your page, your website, your content, because that's going to really help with your momentum and your motivation, and then further on really think more about the monetary potential of what you're doing in terms of marketing?
Yeah, I think, yeah, in the early days, like you kind of nailed it. It was just like, what can I do? Like I used to have this kind of thing in the back of my mind, was like, what can I do today to generate like 10 clicks? Which, yeah, like it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot, but like, responding to someone on Reddit could generate 10 clicks. I responded to like a few core answers, like that actually didn't really work for me. Sometimes I would run like a $10 test campaign on Facebook ads, or I would like ask a brand that I featured in an article to like share it on social, or like an interior designer I'd worked with, like they'd share it on social. So yeah, I think like that mentality in the early days is quite good, to just kind of say like, what can I do to generate 10, 20, 100 clicks today? Because it kind of gets you constantly trying new things. Some will stick, like 90% will fail.